Hey legends, King here, hope you're well. Okay, so today, video number 2. Last week we went on about types of super. Today we're going to crack on in investing in super. Now, a quick recap, it's important to know when investing in super what type of super we're investing in, okay? So, types of super, we've got the government super, industry funds, retail funds, SMSF, self-managed super funds. A couple of others around those, but these are the main types. Other thing to remember is inside super we have 2 types of superannuation time frames. We've got the accumulation time, where everything's taxed at 15% for most people, and then pension phase, which is where 0% tax environment. The other thing we have is defined benefits and stuff, but they're a different kettle of fish. We can't use those we can't invest inside those. They do their own thing, so we'll stick to these 2 today. So, step 1, types of super. You've got to understand what you have or what's right for what you want to do moving forward. The basic concept of investing inside super is the same, okay? We get this question a lot where people come in asking about self-managed super funds because in reality, the flexibility and options of which you can invest in inside a self-managed super fund are humongous. They are, right? That's the benefit. But then like the cons we went on in the last video, there's also lots of cons regarding the things you have to do for that. Now, it blows me away how many times people come in and want to get an SMSF so they can invest the way they want. Thinking that them never having invested in anything before and barely scrapping 2 cents together in their own cash can somehow do it better than these multi-millionaire, million-dollar fund managers that do really well. Investing, behavioural finance, which tells everyone thinks they can do it better than someone else, and they got a new way, it's usually the same, okay? Stick to the fundamentals, unless you're a genius, but come in, test that theory on me, and I'll let you know if you are, and I'll jump on board with you. If not, stick to the basics, let someone else who's good at it do it for you, because you don't want to be playing with your retirement money. Right, so step 2, the first thing you want to figure out is what your risk profile is, and this is to determine how aggressive or conservative you are, can be, or should be to reach your goals, okay? There's goals-based investing, needs-based investing, and then there's risk-based investing. Now, we start with risk-based. How comfortable are you with how much risk can we take in your portfolio for your goal? Now, what might happen is you might say, oh, I'm not very comfortable, I'm pretty conservative, but then you see how far off your goal that would technically get you to fall, and you might say, that's more of a risk. Not reaching my goal is more of a risk than the risk we're talking about in investing. So, then we might turn to needs-based investing where, well, realistically, you need a minimum of this type of return over the X amount of years to reach your goal. Are you willing to increase your risk up? Does that make you more comfortable? Yes, it does, right? So we have that discussion. With the risk profile, we need to work out your time frame. How long you have to invest before we need that money, okay? How many investment cycles we're going to go through. Growth versus defensive. So how much money you want in growth assets, so property, shares, that kind of thing, and how much you want sitting in defensive, so that might be cash. And this may change over time, but this is just from the get-go what we need to figure out. Whether you want income or capital growth, okay? Whether we're looking to generate income or whether we just want capital value to increase. What kind of downside risk do you have? So it's all really good to say, yeah, I'll invest in something that's doing 20% returns. What if it had a 20% loss? How would you feel then? How do we protect our downside? Do we have the insurances in place? Do we have a contribution strategy in place to take advantage of downside rather than copying it on the chin and feeling sorry for ourselves? What's our downside play? The purpose and goals behind your investing. So what are you doing? What are we investing for? There's no point just investing to invest. What are we investing for? Do we need to take more risk? You know, if you have a couple of $1 million and you want a couple of thousand income, you can just sit in cash and live off that. But if not, if we need to increase it, that might be as well, right? So needs-based investing comes in there. So that's the first step, okay? Well, second step. First step, finding out what type of super you have. Second step is what your risk profile looks like, how aggressive versus conservative you are. Step 3 is asset allocation, and this is determining assets inside that growth versus defensive. So, as we said in the aggressive versus conservative, you have 2 types of macro asset classes. Defensive, so not very risky and not very big returns. Growth, a little bit more risky and a little bit more returns, right? So they grow in value, not fixed or stay where they are. The thing with then inside these asset classes, we have different risk profiles inside each asset inside these asset classes. However, we'll get to that in a second. So defensive assets include cash, so sitting your money in a bank account, term deposits, bonds, fixed interest, credit, and other income generating fixed income sources, right? So that's the defensive side. Then on the growth side, we have Australian equities, so that's shares, okay, the Australian share market. We have small cap, so your small penny stocks, your speculative stocks. Mid cap, so you're outside your top 300 kind of stuff, and then your large caps, which is your inside ASX 200-300. Then we're going to determine out of those stocks whether we want an income generating stock or a growth stock. Okay, generally your smaller stocks are more growth based and your larger stocks have good dividends and are very income based. So that's our thing on the way up. Then we've got the international equities, okay, so all the rest of the countries, not just US, everything international is just US, all the other companies, again, small, medium, large caps. So let me figure out there as well what percentage of your portfolio you want to go inside there. Then we have property infrastructure, so inside most super funds, not the SMSF, we have unlisted property trusts, listed property trusts, real estate investment trusts, okay, so your REIT funds, we're mainly, and I think almost exclusively in commercial property at this point. Then we have alternatives, so they can be derivatives, different other funds that you pay a little bit more for, but they're a bit more speculative, much higher ups, much higher downs. Can be good in a down market because they still generate some good returns. Then we have other, so other things, especially inside an SMSF, there might be other kinds of investments that classify as growth. They're in there as well. What we need to do is, that's the discussion around asset allocation and what asset classes there are, but we need to look at what type of asset allocation strategy we want, right? So the first one we have is passive asset allocation, and that's where we chuck a strategy and we let it ride. That's it, right? Now don't get this confused with passive and active investment, different, okay? This is the asset allocation. So we might say, rightio, we want 10% to 20% defensive, 80% growth, split it up evenly, let it go. We won't touch it again, right? That's passive. Strategic, a little bit less than passive. You'll have a strategy around it with the economic market, and what you'll do is, as you move forward, maybe annually or so, we might readjust, reweigh, keep it in line with that, right? Tactical asset allocation, similar to strategic, except there's more reweights, and you have movement. So instead of saying we want 10% in cash, it might be we want 0 to 30% in cash, and depending on the market, we can slide in between those ranges. Now, dynamic asset allocation is my favourite at the moment, especially in this market. Similar to tactical, except it's got a much wider range, right? So it might say we can have 0 to 80% cash, and depending on the market, we can slide at any given time. These are relatively new. What happens is inside your super fund, you have a trustee, which has an investment mandate, tells you how you can invest, and then you get updated with new things coming along, and this is where this all comes from. Rather than being very fixated and very straightforward, it's a bit more linear, we can do a bit more with it. Okay, so this then comes into, when we talked in the last video about what type of funds are right for you, this is the stuff you need to look at, and if you want to have a crack at these things, it's not investing isn't as simple as just put your money in and go. It can be, but if you want to get detailed and know that you've got a good strategy, these are all the things that we put in place to make sure your strategy is right. Okay, so step number 4 is what type of investments inside the growth funds, right? So then this is talking about, you can see here we've got direct investments, managed funds, SMAs and ETFs, other, self versus professional, right? So we start at the top. So direct, so that's whether we're buying the investment through something else or we're going to go direct to it, okay? So this can be, for example, a managed fund where we buy it through someone else and we're just actually buying units in a trust, or we actually buy the share of that company directly, okay? So that's where it's direct. Again, property, so SMSF, whether we use a trust, whether we use a REIT fund, something like that, or we just buy the property directly. So both have pros and cons. That's what you figure out, whether you want to go direct or if you want to go through something else. Managed funds, so managed funds is investing in a unit trust. You own units in that trust and everything is distributed equally across the unit holders, so depending on the proportion of units you hold in that fund. And then what happens inside that fund is that professional manager, he will own the shares, or the trust will own the shares, and they'll buy and sell, and you'll get distributions and growth and losses in accordance with that fund. So you don't actually own any shares, you just own units in the trust that owns the shares. Then we have SMAs and ETFs. Now these are pretty cool at the moment, these are new, relatively new. SMAs are separately managed accounts. Okay, now this is similar to a managed fund, it's kind of the new way of thinking where things are going. You actually own the shares directly, however, there's a professional manager managing those shares for you. Now, managed funds and SMAs have their pros and cons as well. There's definitely tax advantages in SMA, but then again, you've got a couple of losses you can't distribute across the fund. So there's pros and cons for both. Personally, I'm a big fan of SMAs, I use them a lot, but it comes down to you and what you want to do as well. And then ETFs, so ETFs are exchange traded funds. Okay, so you don't hold units in the trust, you actually own shares in that ETF. Okay, so it's similar to a managed fund, except you hold, shares in that fund, right, rather than units in the fund. Other, so we can have all different types of other investments as well. SMSF example again. insert cryptos here. Then we've got self-first price. And then you've got to figure out whether you want to do it yourself. Not usually a great idea. You can manage a portion if you want, but it's not always a great idea because you're probably not any good. Or whether you want professionals to do it. And then that just comes up to how much they charge and whether it's worth it. And now, what we're going to sort of stipulate here and make clear is that, and I'll do another video on this actually, but people don't come and give me their money to invest. That's not what my job is. Okay, my job is to organise your financial circumstances so that you have the ability to invest. Yeah, it's not you come say, hey Ryan, make you rich. That's not me. I'm not an investment manager. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm a financial planner, right? So I get all your stuff in one sock and make sure you're ready to then invest. Now, if you want me to do that, I will source and make an investment plan and everything like that as well. But that's not my game. There's people whose sole game is to invest money and they get paid the big bucks, and that's what we got way out there. And that's something that I want to give you enough capacity to make that decision, and then you can make it yourself, or I'll make it with you, right? And that's what happens there. So self first, professional. Number 5 is the investment strategy, okay? So whether we go passive or active, so passive is in index funds, for example, chuck the money in the market and let it ride, let it do what the market does. Active is we'll give it to someone, we either do ourselves or a professional, try and beat the market, so actively trading, or we can have a mix, all right? Just completely depends on you and what you want to do. Number 6, contributions. This is probably, in my opinion, the most important thing about a super fund or any investment is your contribution strategy. That's where you're going to make big bucks, right? First, you've got to look at the tax position, so whether you're contributing for tax, whether it's right, whether you should do more, less, or on the money. Secondly is then retirement and pension, okay? So what does our retirement look like? How much of our portfolio for retirement is this going to make up? Are we contributing enough? Are we contributing too much? Are we going to hit the cap? What do we do there? And then in pension phase, how are we going to do a TCR, a transition to retirement? How are we going to pull the money out? What are we going to do there? Lump sum, income, all that stuff. Whether we use it for a first-time super saver scheme, and then dollar cost averaging. So if the market does fall, how much are we willing to put back in to take advantage of that fallen market consistently moving forward, and how much are we going to contribute all the time? Are we going to sit some in cash, or what are we going to do? Okay, so that's what that comes up to. And then really, really important part, number 7 in black, okay, the transfer of your wealth. Huge. Realistically, we're saving into super for a transfer. There's 2 types of transfers that are going to happen. Transfer to you in retirement, or a transfer to your beneficiaries if you die. Okay, so you need to look at both of these. So when we retire and when we're in pension phase, how are we going to transfer it? Why are we going to transfer it? What's it going to do for us, right? And that's where we do the zero, we take it as a lump sum, whether we use it to buy a home, what are we going to do, right? So the transfer of your superannuation and the investments to you, whether we maintain the investment strategy, we reduce it, we take an income but it stays invested, all those things. And then death. What happens to your super if you die? Who's it go to? How's it going to them? When is it going to them? What's the tax implications? All those things. And number 8, I always come back to this in most of my videos. In life or in retirement, we need 2 things to be comfortable, and that's a home to live in and money to live on. Superannuation can help you do both. Okay, so it's usually the income portion of people's portfolio is going to be tax-free in pension phase. So that's usually what we build to. But you can also, it can be a very tax-effective way to have a home. If you don't own a home now, rather than getting a mortgage and having 30% of your income stripped in tax first, it may be beneficial to start pumping money into your super, for example, and start saving for a home that way and putting 15 or 17.5 cents usually in every dollar back in your pocket towards a home at retirement. That's one option. Other options, we can use SMSFs to buy houses, but we can't live in them until retirement age, and we pull it, long story short, right? So lots of strategies around that, but you need a house to live in, money to live on. Your superannuation is a huge component of that, and it's really important you take advantage, following all these steps to make sure you get it on the right path as part of your bigger picture. Alright, hope that was good, dudes. Any questions, jump on. I'll see you next video.